Hey Clay, what's going on, buddy? Oh, nobody can hear me. Now they should be able to. Now they should be able to hear me. All right.
Nice intro, dude. I like it.
Yeah, dude, thanks, man. All right, so tonight is going to be an explosive show. We have a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm really excited about this evening. So, obviously, for those of you that are new to the show, welcome. This show is all about spreading information, talking about freedom, decentralization, and blockchain technology. Obviously, all three of those go hand in hand. Freedom is given to us through the idea of decentralization, and blockchain technology offers us that decentralization. So, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I think you all are going to be very pleased with this evening, and I look forward to the conversations that we're going to have. Right now, it is just Crypto Jake and I in the Discord server. So if anybody wants to join us in the voice chat to talk to us or debate us on whatever topics we discuss this evening, feel free to do so. We love debates because it opens up the idea of objectivity, and that is really important in this sector. You know, you can't have freedom with a little bit of objectivity. So I highly encourage anybody that wants to express themselves to come and join our Discord server and talk to us. But if you just want to listen to what Jake and I have to say, feel free to do so. We love talking as well. So, Jake, do you have any opening statements this evening?
No, just excited to be here, ready to just talk some crypto.
Awesome stuff. All right, so the first topic tonight is going to be the state of the market. Now, obviously, everybody is a little bit weary and a little bit excited at the same time right now. I've had so many people ask me questions this week about what I predict is going to happen on August 1st. And there's a lot of uncertainty. You know, a lot of people are scared, but a lot of people are really excited at the same time. They see it as an opportunity to make a lot of money. And I couldn't agree more. I think that it is a very scary but exciting time. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is what you should be buying right now. Everybody keeps asking me the question, should I be buying Bitcoin right now or should I be buying altcoins? And it's taken me a few days to actually decide what I think is the best course of action for this. Now, obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell anybody what to do with their own money. You're going to have to make the decision for yourself. But here's what I'm thinking I would do if I didn't have all of my money tied up in assets already. If I had, which, I mean, I am going to do a little bit of this, but if I had a sum of money that I could use to invest in anything right now, I would probably invest it in altcoins right now. And the reason that I say that is because taking a look at Bitcoin, you'll notice that it is the only one that is currently positive in an uptrend on CoinMarketCap. There are a couple others, but for the most part, Bitcoin is the only one that's up right now. And there's a reason for that, I think. And the reason for that is that I think everybody and their mama is trying to buy as much Bitcoin as possible using their altcoins so that they can get a little bit of money on the side by selling their Bitcoin Cash and dumping it as soon as it's available to dump on August 1st. But what's funny about that to me is that people are selling their altcoins at a loss to do so. And so they're actually losing out on a lot of potential money that they could be having. And so right now, in my personal humble opinion, I think that the best course of action is to scoop up these altcoins that are cheap.
You know, you make a good point there, because even I was eyeing up my portfolio, wondering, man, what can I dump if I really wanted to move into something else and not miss this opportunity? I'm looking at my portfolio thinking, what should I get rid of? But you know what, man? I haven't pulled the trigger on any losing trades right now, so I'm kind of waiting on the sidelines with this question.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea to think about it. You know, you still have a couple of days to decide. And the reason that we're having this conversation at all, what's up, TechnoSearch? The reason that we're having this conversation at all is because if you hold on to Bitcoin before the fork on August 1st, you have the potential to hold both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So for those of you that are new and have no idea what we're talking about, if you have Bitcoin currently before August 1st and you have it in a wallet that you have the private keys to, you have access to both coins. Now, some exchanges have already come out and said, we're not going to be accepting Bitcoin Cash. If you have any Bitcoin on our exchange and you want the Bitcoin Cash, go ahead and pull your Bitcoin off of our exchange. And so you won't be able to access the Bitcoin Cash if, like, for Coinbase, for example. Coinbase is the largest exchange in the world. If you currently have Bitcoin on Coinbase, they will not be giving you the Bitcoin Cash that you rightfully own. So if you pull that off and use like the Bitcoin Core wallet or something like that, you have the private key to that and you can actually access both. But other exchanges have gone in the completely opposite direction. Like, I know, for instance, Kraken and Bitfinex have came out and said that they will be offering Bitcoin Cash on August 1st. Now, they're not going as far as via BTC, who is already selling futures in Bitcoin Cash, but they are saying that you will be able to access both as soon as it's available. So that's really interesting. And, you know, if that's something that you're interested in and you already hold Bitcoin, maybe that's the right path for you. But for those of you that still have not invested some of your money and are kind of waiting on the sidelines like Jake here, maybe investing in some of these really cheap altcoins right now is the best option for you. Because the way I see it, on August 1st, it's going to be a race to see who can sell off their Bitcoin Cash at the highest profitable amount. And if you get in after all of these other people dump theirs, you're not going to make that much money, and you're going to have lost a lot of money that you traded your altcoins for to buy Bitcoin, and I just don't think it's going to be profitable. But right now, these altcoins look so tempting to me. They're just such low value right now, and like, some of these altcoins are down 10% today, whereas Bitcoin is up 2%. It just doesn't make any sense to me that people aren't seeing this opportunity here. So what are your thoughts, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm invested in a few shitcoins myself, and you know, all of this hype surrounding Bitcoin Cash, you know, was it to be, not to be? You know, clearly the market has now seems to embrace this opportunity. If not long term, everybody's clearly, the market's suggesting people are buying up BTC, hoping to, like you described, dump the Bitcoin Cash as soon as the fork hits, given the right opportunity on the market. And it makes you wonder, you know, how long is this Bitcoin Cash going to be around? But what if Bitcoin Cash really starts pumping on that first day or two? Is that going to deflate BTC? Is BTC suddenly going to fall through the floor? We're going to see it at 1,800 or 1,600 or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to say, but I just don't think that there is going to be that much support for Bitcoin Cash.
I don't think so either.
If you look at all of the miners that have come together for this second window for segregated witness, it's at almost 100%. And so right now, the only people that I think are going to be mining Bitcoin Cash is going to be via BTC, and that's not sustainable. It's really not. And if you think about it, why the hell would you want a single exchange or pool mining a specific currency? Because if that is the case, that's basically a centralized entity. You don't want just a single pool mining something, because then it's not decentralized. Whereas Bitcoin itself is very decentralized. There are people all over the world mining that. Now, China obviously has the biggest stake in mining because they have the cheapest electricity bills, but it's still very decentralized. There are a lot of exchanges in China that don't agree with one another. So I really don't think that Bitcoin Cash is going to go very far.
Yeah, I don't think it will either. And right after it drops, we could very well see a surge in the altcoins, right? As soon as people right now getting out of the altcoins to get into this Bitcoin Cash opportunity. As soon as the Bitcoin Cash opportunity is over and everybody's cashed out, that money might very well flow right back into the alts.
Yeah, I definitely think it will. All of these people that sold their altcoins are probably going to go right back to the same altcoins they did. Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin could coexist in the market. Ethereum and ETC have remained in the top 10. But the difference between that and this is the fact that Ethereum Classic had a lot of miners branch off because of the ideological differences. Ethereum Classic thrived afterwards because of the fact that there were so many people that believed in that specific ideology. They never wanted the Ethereum Foundation to tamper with the code and create that hard fork in the first place. This is very different in the fact that these are people that are actively creating a hard fork because of a small ideological difference. But the thing is I think most people understand the value of Bitcoin itself, and moving forward, people are only going to see Bitcoin Cash as another altcoin, so it will never have that association like Ethereum Classic has, because a lot of people view Ethereum Classic as the original Ethereum. You know, it's immutable, the code is law. It's what a lot of people envisioned Ethereum would have been from the very beginning. And a lot of people view Ethereum and the Ethereum Foundation as the branch off, if that makes any sense.
I think one thing to consider is the actual via BTC markets. The price and the volume has dropped off. You'd figure it would be picked.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You cut out there a little bit, Jake. Are you still there, man? All right, I'm assuming that Jake just lost his connection. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, that's the first part that I wanted to talk about as far as state of the market is. There are a few other things that I wanted to discuss as well, though. So one of the things that has really caught my eye is the fact that Bitcoin is above 50% dominance in the market. Bitcoin is above 50% in the market cap again, which really triggered my thought process as far as, you know, people are dumping their altcoins to pick up Bitcoin so that they can buy and dump their Bitcoin Cash. That kind of triggered that thought process for me. And so I encourage you guys to go and take a look at that on CoinMarketCap and take a look at these different exchanges that are selling Bitcoin Cash and see if it's a right investment for you. If it is, awesome. If not, awesome. Scoop up some of those cheap altcoins. One of the things that I wanted to discuss, though, was the fact that Ethereum is really cheap right now. You know, a lot of people were thinking that this week Ethereum was going to break out, and it hasn't done so. Jake, you there, man?
Yes, sir. Mic check. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back, man.
Yeah, Discord crashed or something. I'm back, everybody.
Yeah, 51.3% Bitcoin dominance right now. So it's definitely gotten a lot of volume over the past few days, and I think that volume has been spurred by people that want to dump Bitcoin Cash. Now, that's just speculation. I can't tell you what people are doing with their money, but it definitely looks that way to me. You know, being in the market as long as I have been, I can notice some of these trends and see what people are trying to do, and that looks very evident to me. But I wanted to kind of move towards Ethereum. Ethereum is looking very bearish this week, which I thought, because it was trading sideways all last week, that we were going to see a breakout this week, and we haven't seen that. Jake, what is your take on that, man? Like, why do you think that's occurred?
Ethereum going sideways?
Yeah, like, why do you think that we haven't seen it break out this week?
Well, I feel like there's still some lingering bad news from last week, and I think this week was all dominated. All the news dominated Bitcoin and the fork. So it seems like Ethereum was just in the shadows this week.
I completely agree about that. However, Ethereum did have some good news this week. Gemini, one of the largest U.S. exchanges, for those of you that don't know what Gemini is, it's the exchange actually owned by the Winklevoss twins, and they currently do auctions every week on Bitcoin, but they plan on opening up Ethereum. I believe it's next week. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. But they're going to be opening up Ethereum, and I think once more people get news of that, the price is actually going to go up on Ethereum. But yeah, that's some interesting news in itself. Did you happen to hear about that, Jake?
I didn't actually know. I didn't know Gemini was getting Ethereum.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting news for Ethereum. Also, Ethereum Classic just got added to eToro. Do you know what eToro is?
Oh, of course, of course. That was actually big news now that you mention it.
Yeah, Ethereum Classic just got added to eToro, and so I'm really excited to see what happens to the price of Ethereum Classic now that real traders, real investors around the world who use that site can actually buy into that. I'm interested to see like what that does to the volume, because whenever Litecoin and Ethereum and Bitcoin got added to eToro, we saw a little bit of increase in the volume. And so now that Ethereum Classic has been added, I'm interested to see if any of these people actually know what Ethereum Classic is and why there was a hard fork there. IOTA, EOS, AntShares, which is number 1, 2, and 3 out of those lads. So, obviously, I am a huge fan of EOS. I shill it all the time. Kidding, I don't shill anything. I only do my own research and discuss things that I think are really, really great projects. And EOS, I think, is by far my favorite project on the market right now. And so EOS would probably be number 1 for me there. IOTA would have to come in a close second, though, because that's actually really funny that you mentioned these 3, because I was planning on having a segment about these 3 later on, and we'll just hold off on those so that I can discuss them later on in the segment whenever I had that planned. But that's a really, really great question, and I'm glad you asked it. But let's move on to the next topic. And the next thing that I wanted to talk about was the SEC regulation that came down this week. SEC was like, hey, the Dow, I hope you know you were a security last year, and other ICOs that act like the Dow are also securities. So any of these ICOs that are technically securities, according to us, need to be registered with us. And that's really, really interesting news for a lot of reasons. Now, obviously, I'm not a big fan of regulation myself. I hate regulation. I love the idea of decentralization. But with this, I definitely think that we could see a lot more investors come into the space because they feel comfortable putting their money on something that is backed by a seal of the United States. And, I mean, what's your opinion on this, Jake?
Huge growth.
What's up?
Say that again.
What's your opinion on this?
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was just reading an article, but repeat that.
We were talking about the SEC regulations.
Right. Sorry. Yeah, that is like, I think it was a huge shot across the bow for crypto people this week. Clearly regulation. This is almost kind of like shooing the crypto game out of America into the foreign markets where it's doing really well, right? Like, for instance, a lot of people were triumphing this as a victory for, if anyone's familiar with Cryptopia, as it's located in New Zealand. And, so now there's this idea that there's this oasis somewhere else and America is not open for crypto business.
Absolutely. For anybody that read that letter, or that document, I shouldn't say letter, the document that the SEC put out to discuss this regulation that they came out with, saw that it wasn't just ICOs that they plan on regulating. It's going to be exchanges now as well. Any of these exchanges that house these tokens for these specific securities will also have to be registered. And so these United States exchanges that currently have ICO tokens on them, like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now, EOS is on both Kraken and Bitfinex. And if I'm not mistaken, those are American exchanges. So I'm interested to see if the SEC comes down and says EOS is a security, and these exchanges need to register with us if they want to be able to trade that. So I really don't know what these exchanges are going to do, if they have to register, whether they're going to actually register with the SEC or whether they're going to take those tokens off of their exchanges, It's going to be really interesting to see.
Good question. Or option 3, move their operations overseas.
Right, that's definitely an option as well, for sure it is. But that kind of segues into the state of Washington. For those of you that don't know, the state of Washington actually kind of took it into their own hands because the SEC was taking forever to come down with regulation. They basically took it into their own hands to make regulation for all of the exchanges. So any exchange in the United States has to register with the state of Washington if they want to allow traders in the state of Washington to trade on their exchange. And so a lot of these exchanges have actually cut off all trading to those in the state of Washington. I noticed that Gemini actually registered with the state of Washington because the Winklevoss twins are very, very much in favor of regulation for some reason. I really don't think they like Bitcoin for its core values. I think that they like Bitcoin as only an investment. They only see it as an investment. I don't think that they actually see the true potential of its technology. And so they're very much in favor of this regulation. And there are a lot of people out there, a lot of highly sought after investors that feel the same exact way. They want regulation on these things, and they're not going to put their money into these cryptocurrencies until they see that regulation out there. And so it's really interesting to see that. It will be interesting to see who gets registered. I think singles is approved. We need to move away from centralized exchanges or seek overseas exchanges that will let Americans join and trade. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think decentralized exchanges are the way of the future, and I'm really excited to see what happens with NVO. I did a video on NVO, which is still in its developing stages, but the idea, the concept of its white paper looked really intriguing to me because it allows people to house their own cryptocurrencies on their computer in a private wallet. and you trade directly from your wallet to somebody else's wallet around the globe, and you don't have to house your coins on any hot wallet. And that in itself seems really, really awesome to me. What's up, Dennis? Welcome to the show, man. But yeah, NVO is definitely something that I'm going to keep in mind for a little while until we actually see it come out and see what happens with it. I did do a little bit of investing in its ICO, and that has already paid off for me. However, I'm not selling any of my tokens. I think that it has a lot of potential, and decentralized exchanges are definitely the way of the future, in my opinion. I don't think that any government can control these decentralized exchanges, because if I'm just trading with somebody around the globe and it's not actually being validated and held on any central entity, then how the hell are they going to regulate that,
They might try and regulate your access to it in some way.
Maybe so, but it'll be really difficult to regulate that access, because how are they going to regulate a peer-to-peer network?
Yeah, once that genie's out of the bottle.
I mean, I think they've been trying to regulate Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for the past few years, and they really haven't found out a way to do so, because they are peer-to-peer networks that really can't be controlled by any one entity. So, I don't know. I really don't think that they can regulate this, and I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to do so. All right, do you have any more thoughts on regulation itself? Do you have any other words of wisdom, Jake?
No, I just wonder, is this, an attempt by the legacy system to try and, put a bump in the road for crypto? Is this actually going to, do anything? Is this actually going to be the start of a campaign to delegitimize crypto, or is this just going to be another, it's the swan song of the like I say, the legacy system?
It's actually really funny that you mentioned that, because that kind of segues into my next topic. Billionaires advising against cryptocurrencies. So these really, really rich investors that are advising against cryptocurrencies. Do you know who Howard Marks is?
Howard Marks, eh?
Yeah. He is a billionaire investor, and he actually has his own company that handles investments. And this week he tried to delegitimize cryptocurrencies. He basically said that they are
not real, quote unquote.
Yeah, he basically said they're not real. He said that he thinks it's a pyramid scheme that has no intrinsic value at all. And so I'm interested to see what the audience thinks about billionaires that say these things. Like, does that kind of scare you to see somebody that has so much power behind their name saying these things? Like, do you take what they say and actually listen to it, or do you take what they're saying with a grain of salt because they don't understand what they're actually saying? Like, I'm really interested to see what people think about these things whenever a billionaire comes out and says, well, cryptocurrencies are not real and they offer no value.
Yeah, that's a really good question. But I think it kind of indicates where they are in the game. If they're bashing crypto and they're just saying these things offhand, saying that this is fake, it's a Ponzi scheme, what have you, I think the people who are in the know will instantly kind of put the dunce cap on you and realize you may be smart in a traditional sense, you may be smart in the legacy financial markets, but you're a little out of your league here with crypto, and it goes to show you how cutting edge it is that even the so-called experts don't know what's about to hit them.
Absolutely. And the reason that I asked this question is because I actually wrote an article about this on STEEM this week, and it kind of baffled me that somebody who clearly has no understanding of this technology could come out and say these things, like these terrible things about cryptocurrencies. And it made me think for a little while. Like, I really had to stop and think about what he said to write this article. And it made me question, like, what does he think the value behind the US dollar is? Like, I would love to know his opinion on that. Like, where does he think the US dollar gets its value? Like, these people that, you know, what's the owner's name of the Dallas Mavericks? Mark Cuban. I was listening to an interview today with Mark Cuban where he was talking about, you know, if you don't know what to invest in, just keep your assets in fiat, in the US dollar. And again, it made me scratch my head, like, where do these billionaires think the US dollar gets its value from? Like, I really am concerned with their thought process behind this and the things that they say, because Mark Cuban has actually come out before and said that Bitcoin is a scam. And so it really, really makes me scratch my head that these people who feel like they have enough power to say these things about things that they don't understand, I really just don't understand, like, how they could make these big claims that they're scams, they're pyramid schemes, they're not real, they have no intrinsic value. Like, what do you actually think has intrinsic value? Because in my eyes, everything has intrinsic value. If somebody is willing to pay for something, it clearly has a valuation on it. And so I listed out a lot of things that make cryptocurrencies valuable, but it's more philosophical than that. It's a lot more philosophical than that, because whenever you start to make claims that something has no value to it, you really have to stop and think about what does have value. Like, if you're going to say that something has no value, I need to know what does. And these billionaires, you know, they didn't grow up in the same era that we did. You know, people like me grew up with computers in our home from an early age. They didn't have computers. This guy, Howard Marks, probably is still used to making trades on paper. Like, let's just be real here. It's
like the horse and buggy owners, you know, who saw the first automobiles hit the road and said, "No, I think I'm going to stick to my horse. There's no future in those stinky ass cars." And then, you know, the pretty soon that technology left them behind, and those cars, you know, did end up becoming, you know, the de facto standard of transportation, right? Even if it, you know, in the early days, it didn't seem that way to the guy still on his horse.
Yeah, I mean, it just baffles me that these people that have so much money they don't know what to do with feel like they can just say anything they want. But honestly, I think that some of it boils down to the fact that they're scared. Like, Howard Marks has a really good reason to shit on cryptocurrencies. Like, let's think about this for a second. If cryptocurrencies do well and they take up 10% of the global market, like I think they will one day, what will that do to stock prices? What will that do to fiat currencies? Like, let's think about that for a second. Well, it'll bring the value down on those. So he's looking at it from a perspective of his own portfolio, and of course it makes sense for him to shit on these things because he doesn't want his portfolio to decline in value. So
some people might not want to go back on their word and change their tune, right? They don't want to appear that they were wrong. No one wants to admit that they're wrong, right? So they might have initially, you know, people might just go with their gut reaction, right? I can understand, again, a different generation, they might have a different view of cryptos and think that it is a scam. And so, you know, that might have been their gut reaction 2 years ago, and maybe now they're scared of going renegading on what they said.
Mark Cuban is now backing Unicoin. Interesting. That is really interesting. So somebody that previously shit on cryptocurrencies is now investing in cryptocurrencies. That's really interesting to me. Investors that realize they missed the boat would rather say bad things to try and bring the price down so they can join in on the action. That's another valid point. I could definitely see billionaires wanting to do that, millionaires wanting to do that. Yeah. Like these cryptocurrencies, they're shit. Like they'll never amount
sour
to
grapes.
anything.
Sour grapes, man. You missed out. Now you all sour.
Yeah. Question: is Bitcoin Cash now trading? Are the futures prices of Bitcoin Cash trading? Anyone know? Yeah, so Bitcoin Cash is not trading yet. You can buy futures on via BTC, but you can't be a United States citizen if you go that route. But it is not trading yet because the hard fork has not occurred yet. So you can't actually physically trade those coins because it's not a thing yet. Once the hard fork actually occurs, you'll be able to trade it on exchanges like Kraken and Bitfinex. And we actually discussed that earlier. We discussed that a whole lot earlier. If you want to rewatch this live stream later after I post it. Really good question, though. All right, so we've talked about the state of the market so far. We've talked about SEC regulation and the state of Washington regulating exchanges. We've talked about billionaires advising against cryptocurrencies. I want to move this into a different direction. Today I saw something that was really interesting to me that I hadn't heard of until today. And some of you guys might have a little bit more information on this than me, but have you guys heard of a project called Ethereum Plus?
Where have I heard that before?
It's actually a really, really interesting project. And I wanted to discuss it because I feel like this could open up a debate. I feel like it could really open up a debate as far as capitalism goes. Do you think that having another Ethereum, kind of similar to Bitcoin, has like 5 different types of Bitcoin as altcoins, obviously. Do you think that having another Ethereum is good competition, or do you think it's too much? Like,
I guess it's the best. Let the best man win. If this competition does put everybody on their A game, and one of them delivers the best platform, I guess it's only for the best of the whole system. But at the flip side, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's going to dilute the already Ethereum, the 2 Ethereum brands already out there. There's another one coming. Even this whole same thing with the Bitcoin Cash thing. People are wondering, is this just going to devalue the mainstay?
Yeah. I definitely have to agree. I think competition is a good thing. And that's actually another conversation that I want to bring up later on. But I definitely think that competition is a good thing. And I just want to talk a little bit about what Ethereum Plus is promising. Their ICO is going to be happening next month, but they're only going to bring 10 million coins. There will only ever be 10 million coins in existence, which is a very, very small number. And in their ICO, they're going to price each coin at $5 a piece, which, with only 10 million coins ever to be in existence, that seems like a very, very cheap price, in my opinion, if and only if they can back up their promises. Their promise is to make easier contracts, easier smart contracts for less tech-savvy people. So they've completely rewritten a lot of the code on the Ethereum smart contracts so that people like you and I can actually make our own smart contracts on their blockchain, which makes it a lot more feasible for anyone around the globe to make smart contracts, not just really, really smart developers. And so if they can make on that promise, I think that $5 a coin is a very, very cheap price. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I like their idea. I think they're approaching, like you said, a more like an entry level smart contract business. I think I read that they're doing like plug and play smart contract solutions, so like templates that users can use to kind of like facilitate whatever transaction they're doing. Definitely bringing this down to the common people might be an interesting strategy.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, I think that Ethereum and Ethereum Classic also will serve their purpose. I think that having smart contracts that are required to be written by incredibly smart developers is a good thing. I think that those are just as equally important as being able to create these plug and play smart contracts. So I
Yeah,
don't want to confuse that.
maybe even simplifying the. Like I'm not familiar with the technical, main makeup of Ethereum Plus, but maybe there's something to be said about simplifying the contracts, maybe therefore making them less prone to holes that people can exploit. Maybe they're going to rewrite some of the problematic parts of Ether.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, but that kind of moves into my next topic, talking about EOS. Now, I wanted to talk about EOS because if everybody that's watching is in my Discord server, then you know that I posted something about EOS getting a lot of work done over the past month. They are working incredibly hard, very diligently, to get a working concept out so that people can play around on the test net and get that going. In a week or two, they're going to have real transactions that can occur on the test net, and signatures can be applied to these transactions. So that is going to be incredibly awesome to see. And this kind of rolls into the same idea that we were just talking about. EOS is a direct competitor to Ethereum. They have completely rewritten the code for BitShares so that they can create basically a decentralized operating system, allowing any developer to come in and make a decentralized application or smart contract on their operating system, essentially is what it is. And they plan to do that with delegated proof of stake, which is very different from what Ethereum is trying to achieve with just regular proof of stake in their Casper system. And also, they plan to allow hundreds of thousands of transactions per second, which is completely unheard of on the blockchain side of things. Like, for anybody that knows anything about blockchain technology, it is incredibly difficult to house a lot of transactions on a single block. And it's even harder to get hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. So what they're trying to accomplish is actually unheard of right now in the blockchain space. And it's going to be really interesting if they can, comply with their promises that they've made. So what are your thoughts on that competition there?
I'm very excited about EOS.
Yeah.
And yeah, for sure, competition definitely breeds out the best. But yeah, going just back to what we were saying, I always wonder, it'd be one thing if these people bring out not as much EOS, but any kind of competitor that shows up using the same name, like Ethereum Plus. I sometimes wonder, it's the same thing with Bitcoin Dark and some of the other spin-offs. Like, are these actual good technologies? Or are the people just trying to ride the coattails using a big name to prop them up? But in terms of EOS, oh my God, the potential to disrupt Ether is incredible. I'm just waiting for the day where all that funding in the form of Ether starts hitting the market, right? Because you got to figure that the EOS developers are eventually going to start moving this, and that'll probably coincide with the project materializing. And I just want to say one last thing to all the guys who are telling me that EOS is vaporware. We've already got a test net coming this week or a week or so. So yeah, eat that, guys.
Who's told you that it's vaporware?
If you remember all the controversy leading up to the first ICO window for EOS, so like a month or so ago, there was just reading Reddit and Bitcoin Talk and so on and so forth. I couldn't believe how much people hated on Dan Larimer and EOS as a project. Like, people are insisting it's a scam, and how you can't justify this valuation. This is going to get. It was just. I think these people are going to be eating their words soon.
There are actually people that still think that STEEM is a scam, which just completely makes me laugh out loud. It's so funny to me that people think that STEEM is a scam when clearly it's working every day. I'm making money on STEEM every single day, and I can cash that money out every single day. So I don't see how that could be considered a scam whenever anybody and their mama can come on STEEM and make money. Dan Larimer is a genius as far as I'm concerned. His creation of the DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, not many people know that he actually created that idea. That concept came from Dan Larimer. Also, delegated proof of stake is incredible. Having delegates that can uphold the blockchain ledger is just so much smarter to me than allowing anybody out there to uphold the ledger. Because if you have people that are essentially trustworthy and proven people that have a lot of stake in a specific currency, don't you want those people upholding the ledger rather than, anybody? Like, to me, that just makes a lot more sense, because if you will open it up to just anybody, that's whenever people can start hacking the network and try to create double spends and things like that. And also, what I wanted to talk about with EOS, like as far as competition goes, everybody knows that the ICO is currently being sold on ERC20 tokens on the Ethereum network. And it's going to be really interesting to see where this Ethereum goes. I know you briefly mentioned this a few minutes ago, Jake, but I'm really interested to see if they try and, completely destroy the price of Ethereum in a year from now, whenever they start selling this off. Are they going to try and dump all of this onto the market at one time? It's going to be really interesting to see, because if they do that, if they dump all of their Ethereum onto the market at one single time, then it's really going to drop that value of Ethereum. What are your thoughts on that, Jake?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a little more strategic. I don't know if that's in their best interest, but I mean, if it's a strategic move to cripple Ethereum, maybe. But maybe it's in their best benefit to still have a viable competitor with Ethereum. So maybe they don't necessarily want to cripple their main competition.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to get at. We were talking about Ethereum Plus and how we appreciate competition. What's up, Jason? I completely agree that Dan is an incredible developer, and I really like that he is creating most of the commits on this project. But going back to the competition idea, I think it's good to have that competition there, because I think each of these can serve their own purpose. Ethereum definitely serves its own purpose right now. It's created the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance to bring in all of these corporations, whereas EOS, I don't think EOS is going to do that. I don't think they're going to create an enterprise that brings in large corporations that centralize the network. I don't think that Dan has that envisioned for his network. In fact, Dan is quite the opposite. He's an anarcho-capitalist. And he believes in free trade and decentralization. So I think he's going to leave this as a very decentralized network for, decentralized thinking developers to come in and create applications on this blockchain, whereas Ethereum is pretty much leaving it open to anybody, all of these corporations. And that's really who they're trying to bring in. They're trying to bring in these large corporations to do business with them.
Yeah, that's something that turned off a lot of people about Ethereum. And I think also a lot of people see that the mainstream blessing from the powers that be that Ethereum seems to have received is also a bit suspicious, I think. We don't necessarily want the mainstream, the mainstay corporations getting in bed with the centralized currency, and this will be our future. I think a lot of us who do embrace crypto as a bit of a freedom proposition, we want, I think we do want decentralized and, emphasis on maybe privacy, anonymity.
Absolutely. I completely agree. But talking a little bit about delegated proof of stake and proof of stake earlier, I kind of want to move this into a different direction right now. And I want to open this conversation up to everybody in the audience right now. Proof of work versus proof of stake. How many of you guys actually understand the key differences between proof of work and proof of stake? I'm really interested to know how many of you actually understand the key differences. So, I want you guys to be honest. If you guys have no idea what the differences are, just say that. I'm really interested to see, because I want to have a conversation about this. And I want to know y'all's opinion on proof of work versus proof of stake. Which one you think is better, why you think one is better. Do you think either of them are better than one another? And what do you think makes one better than the other?
I think the chat's probably a minute or so behind it.
Yeah. Well, Jake, what's your opinion, dude? I guess Jake cut out again. Hopefully he's back here in a second. But I'm just going to give my point of view of the idea between proof of work and proof of stake. So proof of work is obviously hashing out an algorithm using a GPU or an ASIC or a CPU. Regardless, it's hashing an algorithm using computational value to basically, try and generate a solution for this algorithm that just continuously gets harder and harder and harder over time and raises the difficulty for these entities to do the computations. Now, in doing so, it makes the network more secure. The harder it gets, the more there are that join in the network to try and hash out this algorithm, the more secure it becomes. Because in order to create a 51% attack, you need computation power that is better than 51% of the rest of the network. So in that, it is very secure. But it's very inefficient at the same time. It requires a lot of power and a lot of utilities to keep it running. Whereas proof of work is very, very economically friendly in that aspect. It doesn't require very many resources to run it. However, there are some people that say that it is less secure. And security plays a huge role when it comes to money. As far as I'm concerned, security is the most important thing. However, when people bring this argument to the table that proof of stake is not a blockchain because it is not secure, or it's not as secure as proof of work, it really makes me wonder how much research they've done on this topic. Because I've done quite a bit of research on both of these algorithms, and as far as I know, there has not been any successful hacks on a proof of stake network that had a large network in itself. And I guess I didn't explain what proof of stake is. So proof of stake is the idea that anybody that has a stake or coins in a specific network can make interest off of those specific coins by running a node, and that node is usually in the form of a wallet of that specific coin, but you have to run that node 24/7 on your computer to be able to receive those rewards by upholding the ledger on your wallet by running a node. And that's essentially what proof of stake is. But as far as I know, nobody has successfully disrupted a proof of stake network. Who gets the proof of stake rewards? So the proof of stake rewards, it depends on the type of proof of stake. That's a really great question. But proof of stake,
I think there's some deterministic algorithm that determines which of the stakeholders gets access to writing this block or something to that effect. Whereas in proof of work, the miners are competing to hash something out faster than the other guys.
well, but there are different types of proof of stake, so let's just get that out of the way first. There is one type of proof of stake that is just a complete random number generator. So your specific node is set to a specific address, and if your address gets selected with this random number generator, you hash out that specific block and get paid rewards based on the amount of coins that you currently are holding in your wallet. So you'll receive a certain percentage based on the amount of coins that you have in your wallet, but it's completely random for that. So there is a type of proof of stake that is just complete RNG. If you get called upon, here you go. Then there's another type of proof of stake that it depends on the amount of coins that you have in your wallet. The larger stake you have, the better chances you have of getting called upon to uphold the ledger and generate that block. And those people, again, get paid depending on the amount of coins that they have in their wallet. That kind of proof of stake, though, a lot of people have called very centralized, as a very centralized idea, because, a very rich, wealthy person on that specific blockchain is clearly going to make more money than somebody that has very little in their wallet, but is still trying to run a node and uphold the ledger just like everybody else. I'm not even sure if it's considered a block reward in proof of stake. It's still technically considered a block reward because it's blocks that it is generating. So in proof of stake, you're still generating blocks, so it's still technically a block reward. You're just not minting any coins in proof of stake, if that makes sense. So proof of stake is a bit similar to master nodes. Absolutely. It's very similar to master nodes, and master nodes are very similar to delegated proof of stake. However, master nodes, the concept of master nodes is the idea that if you buy a certain amount of coins on our specific blockchain, you can house a node on our blockchain and reap rewards for that node that you're running. Delegated proof of stake is very similar to that, where certain people on the blockchain get to run nodes. However, those people are called witnesses, and they have to be voted into power by the rest of the blockchain. So on delegated proof of stake, which is what EOS is about to start implementing once it's up and functioning, those people, those delegates, those witnesses have to be voted into power by other users on the blockchain, but they're running nodes very similar to master nodes.
Right. So they're holding, they're holding coins, so they have a stake in it. Whereas I think proof of work, they don't necessarily need to hold any coins in order to participate in mining.
Correct. On proof of work, you can actually send all of your rewards to an exchange and immediately sell them. And there's no drawback to doing so. You can actually be very profitable doing that, but it's actually more profitable on proof of stake to hold on to your coins because you're earning annual percentage rates on that, essentially is what it is. And some of these proof of stake coins are very, very profitable. Like they offer like 7% APR. And if you think about that and you combine that 7% generation of rewards combined with the growth in the market itself, that seems very enticing to me to do so.
Yeah, I think proof of work is fraught with problems in terms of future growth, right? Like it's such a huge consumption of energy just to churn out single transactions. As the system grows, energy demand is going to keep going up exponentially. There's clearly an issue there. I think this is where proof of stake is really going to shine with that smaller energy footprint.
Absolutely. And I briefly touched on that earlier, but
Yep.
I really think that proof of stake is going to be the way of the future. And that's why Ethereum is trying to move towards that. They've been trying to move towards that for the past 2 years. So if I want to run a proof of stake node, I don't need some crazy mining rig to run the algorithms so more people are able to participate. Absolutely, man. All you need is a regular computer to run a node. You don't need anything fancy. Like I could literally run a node of Blackcoin. I think Blackcoin is a proof of stake. I could run a node on my laptop if I wanted to.
Or IOTA, right?
Yeah. Well, IOTA has no fees at all. Yeah, IOTA is not a blockchain. So,
Okay.
in fact, let's talk about IOTA. I wanted to talk about IOTA tonight because I've been doing a lot more research on IOTA. So a lot of people are very unaware of what IOTA is, and they just take a look at the market cap of it, and they're like, man, they have a lot of coins, and they're not really worth that much. Is it really worth investing in this? And to answer that question, you have to understand what that technology is, and it's called the Tangle. It is not a blockchain at all, and I find it incredibly fascinating. I personally have not invested in this yet, but I think that this is incredible technology that could surpass blockchain technology. And the reason I say that is because of one specific reason, and that is the fact that as more users start moving into blockchains, like let's take a look at Bitcoin, as more users get on that network, it becomes slower because more transactions are occurring. And the more transactions that occur on a blockchain, the slower it becomes. But on IOTA and Tangle technology, the more users that come onto the network, the faster it becomes, because every single transaction has to be approved by 2 prior transactions. So let's think about that for a second. The more people that come onto the network and start transacting, the faster it becomes to generate a transaction because you have those 2 other transactions that can approve said transaction. Does that make sense? Jake, you there, man?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that sounds like a scaling dream, right?
Absolutely. Plus, no fees, free of charge.
Is this where the industry is going?
I really see. The only thing is like I was reading on their website, and there's a little bit of doubt as far as security goes, and that's the reason that I haven't invested in this yet, because they mention these attacks that could occur on their network, but apparently they have implemented security measures to fight against these attacks, but there are a lot of unknowns right now. I mean, with Bitcoin, take a look at Bitcoin. When it first came out, there were developers all around the world that found problems with the blockchain itself, and they had to patch those problems. Like, there are a lot of blockchains that forked from Bitcoin that still have malleability issues. So we're going to find the same thing with this Tangle technology. And I think it's important to mention, too, that the Tangle technology is actually implemented from a DAG. And if anybody knows anything about Ethereum, Ethereum actually creates a DAG for its blockchain, which is really interesting. Anytime you want to mine on Ethereum, you have to generate a DAG. And so that's really interesting that they chose that method to create their Tangle technology. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about with IOTA. I definitely think that it could be a game changer here in the near future, but it'll be interesting to see how the security measures play out on that and what changes they'll have to implement on the technology itself. All right. So I just have one more thing that I want to talk about today before we go. And anybody in the audience that has this type of contract, I'm not trying to put shame on anybody by my next few comments. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not trying to say bad things about this specific company, but personally, I can't condone the actions of this company, and I really think that moving forward, people should be a lot more cautious about these types of things, and that is Genesis mining and cloud mining as a whole. I've said it before, I don't agree with cloud mining. I think that mining should be done in your home. I think that, well, not necessarily in your home, but it should be a personal thing. I don't think that you should buy out equipment from somebody around the globe that you've never met before in your life and just trust them with your money. You have no idea what kind of equipment they're running. You have no idea what kind of wallet they're running. And they clearly, I mean, they say they got hacked this week, but who knows what actually happened. They say that their hot wallet got hacked, and that's why they haven't been able to pay out people for an entire week. But who actually knows what occurred? Nobody really knows. You know, they could have just not generated any blocks recently, and they haven't been able to pay out their customers. And if that's the case, then that's really scary, because difficulty on these blockchains is only going to get more difficult. I mean, that's the whole idea. That's the whole concept of difficulty rising. Like, you want that hash power to go up as the difficulty goes up. And if they can't afford to buy new equipment, or they don't have the space, or they don't have the resources, then how can they continue their operations? And at the same time, how can they continue to offer all of these special rewards, like these 3% off promo codes over and over and over again? It just doesn't make any sense to me. The math doesn't add up. It's not possible. So I highly encourage people to take a look at these types of operations and do your research. And, you know, if you were to just take the money that you would spend on these mining contracts, these cloud mining contracts, and put them into a cryptocurrency, I don't think that you would be saddened by your returns. I think that you would be a lot more profitable, in fact. So that's my take on that. And anybody can say however they feel about it. You know, if you have a contract with Genesis or one of these other cloud mining services and it has been incredibly profitable for you, awesome. You know, I never wish bad upon anybody in this crypto space, and I really hope that you are earning money on your investment there. But looking at it from an objective stance, I can't condone this kind of behavior. What's up, Wolf? Welcome to the show, man. But yeah, Jake, what's your take on this, man?
I am not much into mining, much less cloud mining, so I can't say I have much of an opinion. But of course, I like to hold my cards tight to the chest. I'm not necessarily sure I would allow somebody on the cloud to do my mining for me, you know. But clearly, I mean, I'm no expert, so everybody do your own research. I'm sure it's a risk-reward kind of thing. You know, be prepared for the worst that possibly happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that kind of rolls into closing statements that I want to discuss. When it comes to any type of investment, it doesn't matter what it is, you should always do your own research. You know, you should never listen to somebody like me on YouTube and just take everything I say and apply it to yourself, because things that I do with my money are not applicable to everybody. Not everybody can do the same things that I do. And also, maybe something that I'm saying isn't 100% correct. I can't be right all of the time. And, you know, I make a lot of mistakes on my own. So I really, really encourage everybody to always do their own research. You know, something that I say really, you need to take what I say and do your own research based on that. You know, I think that anytime you're investing your money, you're taking a huge risk. And by listening to what one person says on YouTube or on a forum, you're taking an even bigger risk, because that's just one opinion. And so I highly encourage everybody to go out and do their own research on these things. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate everybody that watches the show. Everybody is great that watches the show, and I highly appreciate everyone that comes back to the show every single day. So thank you for that. I can't give enough thanks to all of you that watch the show. But I really, really encourage everyone to go out and do their own research when it comes to cryptocurrency investments, because there is a lot of research out there. All you have to do is look on any of these forums, Steam it, Bitcoin Talk, these websites like the Merkle, Bitcoinist, you know, all of these news agencies that do a lot of the research for you. But then again, you know, you shouldn't just pay attention to those. You should do your own research on top of that. And there are a lot of like forums for these specific projects. If you go to the projects forums, you can actually do a lot of research. Even reading white papers of these specific projects, if you don't read the white papers of projects that you're investing in, you're already doing yourself a disservice. Any investment that I make, I only make that investment after I've read the white paper of that specific project. Because if I see something in a white paper that I completely disagree with, I'm already turned off to the investment idea. And so that's something that you also need to take into consideration when doing any investments in the crypto space. But that kind of wraps up everything that I wanted to talk about this evening. Jake, did you have anything else to say before we conclude tonight's live stream?
As always, it was good hanging out with you, Clay. Same to everybody in the chat. I suggest people take a look at the Bitcoin live charts. It looks like we're already sliding now down.
Really?
You tell me. I mean, it's still at 2730 on Coinbase, but take a look at the live chart. It looks like we might be sliding right now.
Let's take a look at it, guys, before I log off.
Tell me this isn't the start of a weekend slide.
Let's take a look at Bitcoin, and let's see if I can I? All right. So, taking a look at the 1 hour chart definitely looks that actually looks about right for projections, though. If you look at this pattern that it's following right here, it looks like it's right on the right track as far as this support line goes. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that on the 1 hour chart, but let's take a look at the 4 hour chart, guys. Again, on the 4 hour chart, it looks like it's following the same trend line. I think, let's take a look at the MACD, guys. Indicators. Okay. 4 hour MACD. If you guys see on the 4 hour chart, the MACD down here, it looks like the top is about to cross over the bottom. And essentially what that means is once those cross, it'll be in a buy zone. And so Jake might be onto something right here, guys. If this is the case, we might see a bottom tonight or tomorrow that will be a good buy zone for anything. But at the same time as well, be very careful with that, because a lot of people have put a lot of money into Bitcoin over the past few days so that they can dump their Bitcoin cash on August 1st. So be careful with that. I think that right now is a really good time to buy altcoins, and obviously that's just my personal opinion. I'm not an advisor, a financial advisor, so I can't tell you what to do, but keep an eye on this, guys. This is really good stuff right here. There might be a buy zone coming up in the next few hours to the next day that would be a good zone to buy in on Bitcoin. But right now, I think altcoins are still the way to go.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting in on Decred right now, if anybody's familiar with DCR.
Decred, yep. But that's going to wrap up tonight's live stream. John, thanks for joining us here, man. Tonight's music should be the new Manchester Orchestra. I completely agree, man. If it didn't demonetize my videos, I would definitely play that. Unfortunately, every time I post good music on my channel, it gets demonetized because of copyright infringement. But absolutely, Manchester Orchestra, I can't wait to listen to their entire album tonight. But thank you guys so much for watching tonight's live stream. I really appreciate everybody that came out. Crypto Jake, as always, man, I appreciate you coming and joining me in voice chat. Anybody else next week that wants to join us in voice chat to talk about current topics, feel free to join us on Discord. We love having the extra space for people to come and communicate their opinions. So feel free to join us next week on our Friday night live stream. But I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Thanks for watching again tonight, and I'll see y'all next week. Clayford08 out.